So this is a different type of video that I'm making. There's not going to be any articles, nothing on the screen. It's just me talking in front of the camera. And I'm just going to share my thoughts because I don't have anyone to talk about this. I feel like the chat is my confidant right now. Um, I have watched the previous seasons of South Park. And I did this because there's not much to watch on television right now. Like most of the shows that I like are on hiatus. And I was a little bored, so I wanted to watch something. And I was just baffled by the difference in the jokes from 4, 5 seasons ago compared to the last season. Now, initially, I thought that South Park is getting less funny because maybe I'm growing up and I just don't like the jokes. But I encourage people to watch some of the previous seasons. Like, you will laugh so hard that like tears are coming out of your eyes. Like the episodes are incredibly funny. And as you're getting towards the current year, you notice that a lot of the jokes that used to make South Park funny are not there anymore. For example, like last season, they've not made a single joke about the Jews. Like the fact that Kyle was Jewish and Cartman would rip him constantly because of that was a big part of South Park. Like for the first seasons, there's not an episode where Cartman doesn't say something about the Jews. Transgender people. They even had like an episode where Cartman decides to purchase this pink bow in order to get special privileges for being trans. That was an entire episode dedicated to it. They made fun of religion. They even had a character called Jesus. They had a character called Muhammad. Like, if you actually watch the previous seasons, they depict Muhammad. It's only later on, like after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, which the terrorists did attack that news company because they drew Muhammad, that I believe it was Comedy Central forbid South Park for showing Muhammad, right? Like that was really weird. And Thunderfoot, who at the time was for free speech, got a copyright strike because he also showed that episode, and he got, I believe, the copyright strike from Comedy Central, and he was livid. What else did they make fun of? Fat people. Like in the very first seasons, they're making fun of Cartman for being fat. And it's like, I'm not fat, I'm just big bone. They make constant jokes that don't exist anymore. And I think the funny part with South Park was that it was a show that took things that are culturally taboo that you would get in trouble for doing, and they put them on the big screen. I mean, when the first season came, you had a very Christian culture, right? And there were people that were taking it overboard. Like there were the piety warriors, as I like to call them, who would start outrage, over things like heavy metal. That was the music of Satan. Who would start outrage over violent cartoons. They would say that video games are the ones that do shootings, commit school shootings. And I grew up in a very religious family, and it was the idea that if you watch Pokemon, that's problematic. If you watch Harry Potter, it's got magic. Like that. Those things existed. I don't know how many of you actually lived through that time period, but yeah, a lot of outrage was over the representation in media. It was the same like now, but it was like a different type of outrage. And what does South Park do? Their very first episode is about Santa Claus fighting Jesus Christ. They're actually having a battle because Jesus is jealous because people celebrate Santa during Christmas rather than his birthday. People were outraged. Like, you had these soccer moms that didn't like violence on television. What does South Park do? They have a kid, Kenny, getting murdered in the most vicious way possible every single episode on screen. They would look at the things that you're not allowed to do, and they would do it. And now they're not tackling any taboo subject anymore. There's like I watched the last season. Nothing that they do is really controversial in any way. Like, what did they have? Oh, they're talking about hemp plantations, and I mean, I guess, but they haven't made any joke about transgenders. Like they had that joke with buckle up, buckaroo, and they're going into a car and driving over people, right? And everyone is like clapping because the person is transgender. They had the joke where one of the kid, I forgot the name, came out for being gay, and the parents didn't know how to react, and they just give him money because, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, that's what society expects of me, you know. They would tackle these things that came down from, I guess, like authoritarian places, like you have to behave in this way, otherwise there's consequences, you know. And there's no debate about it. Like, this is how decent people act, and if you don't act like decent people, you're going to be fired, or you're going to have repercussions, like being banned from social media, stuff like that. And South Park would mock it. They would laugh at it, you know, like they would look at that situation and explain how ridiculous it is. For example, there was the time, I believe, like 2 or 3 years ago, where you would have a celebrity or an activist shut off their Twitter account, and the entire mainstream media would talk about that event, and they would act like it's the worst thing ever, like, oh my god, you almost killed this person. And then they would start asking for censorship for social media, right? They would view that person as a digital death, if you will, you know, like, look, this activist shut down her Twitter account. Oh my god, like, Twitter needs to do something about the harassment and the trolls. They need more regulations, more censorship. And South Park actually had this joke where this girl shuts down her Twitter account, and everyone acts as if she died, you know, like there's even like this little funeral, if I remember correctly, at school and stuff, in memory of her, because, you know, and she was still alive, but she just terminated her online account. You don't get that anymore. Like, last season, I haven't seen anything like that. And, you know, maybe they're tackling a couple of controversial things here and there. They're so milquetoast. They are so milquetoast. Like, if you watch, again, like, if you watch the season 7 or season 8, you will laugh like there's no tomorrow. You know, like, you're going to die laughing. Because they, again, like, they were making jokes that you can't find anywhere else. Like, the thing with political correctness is that it only allows you to make a couple of jokes, and everyone has already heard them. And it's just not funny to hear the same joke over and over again. And another interesting thing is that their jokes weren't even mean-spirited. Like, when people rip on Cartman for being fat, you know they're doing to tease him. Like, they're doing to upset him. Like, if he wasn't fat, they would make jokes about something else. You know, they would find something else that he has that they can mock and ridicule over him. It's not the fact that they have problem with chubby people, is that they know that annoys Cartman, and that's why they're doing it. And in return, Cartman makes fun of Kyle for being Jewish, and he makes fun of Kenny for being poor. It's how normal interaction works between a group of friends. But, you know, like, that's not something that's allowed to be shown on television anymore, because if you make fun of Cartman for being fat, well, you're making fun of, you know, an entire demographic, right? Because, like, obviously, if you have saying that to Cartman, then you think that there's something wrong with fat people. And you're not allowed to make jokes about fat people, you know? And if Cartman says something about Kyle, then, oh my god, you know, in the wake of Charlottesville, Cartman has made a joke about the Jew. Oh, blah, blah, blah. That's how the media reacts. And it's really sad to see that a show like South Park stepped down. The Simpsons, they also decided to, I guess, ban one. Did they go through with it, or didn't they? Because I haven't got informed. Chat, let me know. But I know that they had an immigrant, Abu, I believe. I don't really follow The Simpsons that much, but I did see the controversy. So they have, like, this immigrant, which is an Indian. And because he speaks with a funny accent, they considered that to be a stereotype, and they decided to stop showing that Indian. And I'm thinking, like, you know, I did watch The Simpsons for a little bit, and I remember that Indian was an example. He was a positive stereotype, if you will. Like, he is a foreigner, comes to the United States, gains citizenship, learns English, so he integrates, starts a business, he's helping the community, and compared to Homer Simpson, he's actually a good father. So the only negative thing is that, okay, he speaks with an accent, but that's what all foreigners do. You know, I speak with an accent. Why is that a bad thing? So they decided to create this outrage over the character that's a stereotype, which is like a positive thing. Like, out of all the characters in the show, I think Abu was one of the most positive examples. And this is a show about stereotypes, by the way. Like, Homer is the stereotypical dad you see in a lot of soap operas. You know, he's the dumb father that's good-hearted, but he's stupid and relies on his wife to show him the light and lead him through life. You have Bart, which is the stereotype of the rebel teenager. Like, any character in the show is some sort of stereotype. So these people are asking for more representation in a show like The Simpsons that's about stereotypes, and then they complain about the representation being stereotyped. I believe they did it the same with the Muppets. You know, like the Muppets, every single character was a stereotype. Like they had certain flaws. For example, Miss Piggy, she had the flaw of vanity. She was like the stereotypical girl that only cares about herself and doesn't really have a lot of consideration for other people. So now that they're making, you know, new Muppets, they decided to add this new character, which is a girl, in order to, you know, have more diversity. And she doesn't have a single flaw. Like, every other character in the show has flaws, but this new diversity character, she's just perfect. She's fine. And, you know, like, this is like a trend that I'm noticing, which kind of ruins entertainment. You know, like, people don't want to see flawless characters. Flawless characters makes for boring stories. You need to have flawed characters that learn to grow. And but anyway, I digress. Just wanted to get this off my chest because don't have anyone to talk to about these things. Most of my friends don't watch South Park anymore. They don't watch The Simpsons. They don't watch any of this. So just wanted to share my thoughts. Let me know if you agree or you disagree with them. After all, it's just like something that I'm turned on the camera and started speaking. And I'll see you guys in the comments.